On the morning of November 25th, 1970, Yukio Mishima delivered the manuscript of his novel, The Decay of the Angel, to his publisher, and then went to a military base, made a balcony speech, attempted a coup, and then committed ritualistic suicide, seppuku. Why would a writer commit suicide? This is about the interesting case of Yukio Mishima, the tragedy of a romantic, disconnected dreamer and his beautiful and deadly illusion. It is an interesting story related to culture, spirituality, the collective, ideals, fuzzy thinking, and great work. So, what is this story? In 1970, Mishima finished the manuscript of The Decay of the Angel, and this was the fourth novel in his The Sea of Fertility tetralogy. So this is a series of 4 books, and then went on to this military base, tried to incite soldiers against their leaders, against the situation of Japan at the time, and failed. And as he failed, he was there with a few other guys, and he committed suicide. One of them committed suicide with him. Seppuku, this ritualistic suicide, is when a samurai, honorably it is said, and definitely this is what Mishima believed, commits suicide by cutting through their own abdomen, usually from left to right, with a helper standing by to finish the process by decapitation. A very dramatic ending of a writer. He wasn't just a writer, he was also a singer, an actor, a director sometimes too. So there are a number of interesting themes and ideas that will help us make sense of this incident. So The Sea of Fertility is a tetralogy, a series of 4 novels about beauty, impermanence, reincarnation, fate, and the decay of the ideal. It tells the story through the eyes of an observer, of a friend, of 4 different characters that are reincarnations of the same person, culminating in the last one, a degenerate and morally decaying personality, causing the disillusionment and sadness and despair of this observer, and coinciding with the disillusionment and the despair of Mishima himself. They are a series of beautiful and rich books. I started with the first one, Spring Snow, and then was very much interested in continuing and reading all of them. So it's a beautiful series of books, and this is Mishima's great work, or magnum opus. When he finished it, he felt that his life's mission, his artistic life's mission, is coming to an end, and he had this belief. All great artists, most of them should have this belief that their great work is an integration of all their life, an integration of all their experiences, and that action and art in life should be together, should go hand in hand. Mishima's great work, The Sea of Fertility, condensed decades of thinking about aesthetics, political idealism, and the essence of reality into one coherent narrative arc. He was growing negative because of the condition of Japan after the World War. He was feeling that there is a lot of moral decay, this creeping materialism, and it was something which he rejected. He tried to rebel against, but it was a complete and utterly failed rebellion in a sense. If we want to look at this from the perspective of the awareness, intent, creativeness, triple helix, we find that it is marked by myths and aesthetic awareness versus a very poor view of reality. So Mishima's awareness was selectively mythic. He had this grand idea of the great, glorious old days, the mythical Japan, but he didn't have enough awareness about the social and the political mood of the 1970s Japan, which was more concerned with material prosperity, leaving the war behind, disinterested in any imperial restoration, and unawareness of the loyalty and interests of the Japanese army as well. He had this clear vision, clear personal intent of where Japan was supposed to go, the essence, the honor, restoring the emperor's pre-war status. But he had no resources, no networks, no allies, and no appreciation of what it takes to achieve this change. He was aesthetically very creative, but on the worldly level, he just didn't care or couldn't be bothered. Should creativity be reduced to a performance? Looking at it from another perspective, from the perspective of approximate thinking, cultural identities are frequently associated with these glorious old days. There is always talk of the loss of cultural identity, and this gives us interesting insights on left-wing versus right-wing politics. Cultural identities can be a dangerous political tool, and they are frequently used to trick the masses. This is who we are. They are stealing our cultural identity. Look at those glorious old days. This speech is frequently used, but it's frequently used to trick the masses by conflation, by confusion, while some actor builds on the generated conflation for some kind of personal gain. This kind of induced conflation usually has some form of longing for a pure past. It can be a pure future, but there is always talk of these deep roots of this unifying blood contrasted against some contaminated present. Immigrants, the new habits, the new culture. And usually there is an idealized or idolized vision of a myth, which is a reflection of a longing, of an identity longing. And this sometimes is just an escape from some failure, from realistic failure. In the case of Mishima, there is this purified, romanticized samurai ideal, and he's treating it as a timeless truth, while Japan in the 1970s was not a place of samurais. It was not a place of this kind of honor. The post-war Japan was interested in something else. Side question, where is this samurai? Was there ever a samurai outside stories and myths, in the sense that Mishima had in mind? So we can think about myth versus complexity here, because the myth is an approximate idea, is a simplifying tool of reality. When Mishima went into the army base, he went to a balcony and gave an impassioned speech to the soldiers. Passionate, symbolic call to arms. Was he thinking that it might work? Thinking he could spark a mass military defection? Was this an oversimplification of institutional loyalties, of the cultural mood, of the political climate? Probably. I mean, look at what he said when he stood on that balcony. Right now, we are going to demonstrate before your eyes the existence of a value that goes beyond respect for life. It is neither liberty nor democracy. It is Japan, the Japan we love, as a nation of history and tradition. Is there no one who is willing to die? So he gave this speech, and what do you think the soldiers did when they listened to this speech by this intellectual who is, to his credit, trying to unite art and action? What did the soldiers do? Well, they booed, they laughed, they jeered, and they basically thought, what an idiot. This creates a very interesting contrast between the ideal world and the real world. The world of myth, the world of illusion in Mishima's head, and the real world of these soldiers who probably want to go home, get their salary and buy something from somewhere. There is an interesting statement that Mishima said to one of his friends. He said, there is a green snake taking hold of Japan, biting into its chest, and there can be no escape. He's talking about the creeping materialism. And the real question is this real or personal? Is it a disintegration of ideals and spiritual decay, or is it progress? So there is this contrast between the world in his head, the world of his illusion, the world of his myths, and the reality. There is also a very interesting personal story here. In one of his short stories, he describes a character being examined by the military doctor, and this character was faking tuberculosis, was faking some kind of disease to avoid military service. And it seems that this was what Mishima did during Second World War. So he kind of dodged military service. And the question here would be whether this act of him being passionately driven towards this idealized version of mythic Japan, a Japan of honor and heroism, is a reflex, is a response against his own previous cowardly behavior. Was it a guilt that grew with time and culminated in his suicide? Another thought to have here is, well, why didn't he fight? I mean, really fight, like with real work, for his vision of this Japan, if he really loved it too much? Convince people, talk to people, or was it utter despair? And was there no chance at all? And this raises the other question of, if this thing had no chance of becoming real, why was he so passionate about it? The question here is also, was this all an illusion all along? This reflection is part of the disillusionment that happens in the decay of the angel. Was it all a myth in his own mind? He was searching for meaning, and so he imagined meaning, but the meaning wasn't there in the real world. Was it just a convenient sanctuary? The 4 novels of the Sea of Fertility are really beautiful and they're really thoughtful. Try the first one if you're interested and see how it goes. Finally, I would like to reflect on one more idea, which is meta-narratives. These grand stories that try to explain the world. So what do we do when meta-narratives fail? What do we do in moments of great despair when these big ideals come crashing down? Should we let go and move on? Should we learn to change? Or instead, one great act of sacrifice, one futile attempt? But this great act of sacrifice is intended to inspire whom? To do what? And the question here is this brave or is this cowardly? I honestly don't know.